What's going on, everybody? This is Brian from SneakerFiles.com, recapping the news. And before I jump into things, like always, greatly appreciate a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe by hitting the button below. Now, we have a special upload today. In this video, I'm going to go over the Spring 2026 Air Jordan releases. Now, this lineup is what Jordan Brand has planned so far. There's still some more drops which will come later, but this is the main releases from Jordan Brand so far. So in this video, I'm only going to cover these leaks. So out of all the shoes in this video, 2 of them you guys know of so far. One of them I talked about Friday, but the other pair I'm going to confirm in this video. So you see the thumbnail, you know what's coming in this video. We got around 9 to 10 shoes so far, and it's looking like a pretty good lineup for Spring 2026. And now, let's jump into the news. The first pair to go over is the Air Jordan 6 Low. So the Air Jordan 6 Low is returning to retailers, and the first pair that is shown is a women's exclusive. Now, what is shown is just a mock-up. I'm not sure how they're going to look. However, the color description is very simple. It's just black and black. So I didn't want to call them Black Cat because I feel like that name is reserved for special releases. Not that this pair isn't a good release, but we already have an Air Jordan 6 Black Cat. And I feel at this stage, if this was an actual Black Cat pair, it would be labeled as such from Jordan Brand. But that's pretty much why I'm calling them Blackout, just because they're expected to be all black. Now, since this is a women's release, the materials could be different. It could feature satin, it could have velvet, it just isn't known at this point. So again, what is shown is a mock-up. This isn't accurate, but with the colorway of black and black, I don't expect it to have too much more, unless Jordan Brand switches things up and adds in a few additional colors. But for this pair, they're expected to drop Spring 2026, which means a release will take place between January and March, and no retail price at this point. Hopefully, though, they're below $200. Yes, we do have a few Air Jordan 4s set to debut in Spring 2026, and one of those is a women's exclusive known as the Air Jordan 4 Sierra Red. Now, again, this is just a mock-up. I'm not sure how this pair is going to look. However, the colorway is Pale Ivory, Sierra Red, and Tough Red. So Z and I, we did come up with a few different versions of the shoe that could potentially release, and we kind of came to the end result of this pair. Very simple. More than likely, they will look different. As you can see, this pair features pretty much sell throughout. And then it has red accents on the eyelets underneath the mesh, Jumpman on the tongue, Jumpman on the heel, parts of the midsole, and the rubber outsole. Just like the Air Jordan 6, this Air Jordan 4 could potentially feature different materials, things like that, because it is a women's exclusive release. At the time of recording, this pair is not expected to have Nike Air branding. As some of you know, Jordan Brand is adding Nike Air branding to more shoes, not just OG colorways, but now older retros and new colorways. One of the shoes in this video will have Nike Air branding that is not an OG colorway. It's not the Jordan 4, but it's a different model, which I'm going to talk about later on in this video, of course. But for this pair, they're expected to drop Spring 2026, and the retail price should be $215. Now remember, the Jordan 4 will now retail at $215. If it has Nike Air branding or it's a collaboration, it'll cost $225. Next up, we have another Air Jordan 4. This time, it's going to be a men's release. And what Jordan Brand is calling the shoe is the Air Jordan 4 Flight Club. Now, what is shown is a mock-up. I'm not sure how this pair is going to look, but the shoes will feature a cell, black, and university red colorway. So with the name like Flight Club, I wonder if it was inspired by the old membership program where people could sign up to. As most of you know, a lot of older Air Jordans, they would come with flight cards. Some of these cards you can actually sign up and send away and be part of the Air Jordan Flight Club. This happened during the 80s and the early 90s. Now, typically, the flight cards were just black, red, and white. Although the colors are a little bit different, we have mostly cell, black, and university red. So I would feel like A Flight Club shoe might have more black used, but that is the color description. So since cell is first, more than likely cell will be used mainly. And then we'll have black and red accents. But either way, this pair does have potential. As of now, they are not expected to have Nike Air branding, but things could change. I've seen it in the past where a style code comes out, because all these shoes I do have style codes for, and they get updated. So typically the first part of the style code would indicate if a shoe has Nike Air or not, and this doesn't have it. But again, that could change, because that sure did on the Air Jordan 4 Black Cat. They initially weren't expected to have Nike Air. The style code changed, and then I received confirmation that it would have Nike Air branding. So again, this is just a mock-up. Let me know your thoughts on this mock-up though. If they drop like this, would you buy? Now, as for the release details, like the other pairs, this one is going to drop spring 2026, and the retail price on these should be $215. Okay, so 3 shoes down, and so far none of these shoes are accurate. The blocking, that is, of course. All the information is accurate. Now, what Jordan Brand is calling the shoe is the Air Jordan 3 Spring is in the Air. Now, the official colorway on these is Cell, Jade Aura, Aura, Ice Carmine, Muslin, and Iris Whisper. Now, just a heads up, again, what is shown is a mock-up. Now, these are labeled the Air Jordan 3 OG. So, yes, they will feature Nike Air branding. As some of you know, this is not an OG colorway. This is a brand new colorway, but Jordan Brand is adding Nike Air to a lot more newer colorways and older retros that are returning, this being one of them, of course. And overall, this pair has Easter vibes to them. So they could also drop around Easter, well, probably a bit before that, since this is part of spring 2026. And I believe Easter is outside of Jordan Brand's spring releases. Okay, yes, so I just Googled it. Easter is on April 5th, 2026. And spring releases for Jordan Brand are between January and March. So at the very least, these should be available just before Easter. Now, this is also a men's release. It's not a women's, as some may think it could be. And to go over the pair, they'll feature white leather on the upper. Now, for people who do not like the aged look, yes, they will have some aged detailing on the midsole and the back heel tab. It'll have muslin. Now, blue will be used on part of the midsole, eye stays, collar, and the Jumpman on the tongue. Now, what I think is dope about the shoe is that it comes with Nike Air branding. I do like that Jordan Brand is incorporating Nike Air on non-OG colorways, and a shade of purple will be used on this one. Now, for this shoe, other details includes green on the top and lower eyelets, and purple will run across the rubber outsole. This shoe is dope, but I can definitely see where it's not for everybody. And again, they are expected to drop spring 2026, and the retail price should be $210. This is a shoe that I've known for about a month or so, and I was really excited to talk about it. And in 2026, the Ben 23 series will return on the Air Jordan 6. Now, just a heads up, what is shown is a mock-up. I'm not sure how this pair is going to look, but I can confirm that they will have the Ben 23 red seal on the heel, and the pair will feature an Off Noir, Picante Red, and Off Noir colorway. Now, in my opinion, this is a pretty big deal, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be excited about this. Now, for those who don't know, Jordan Brand introduced the Ben 23 line in 2010. They would release 5 different models, which included the Air Jordan 2, the Air Jordan 5, the Air Jordan 7, the Air Jordan 9, and the Air Jordan 13. Now, some of these pairs were samples that were brought to life, while others featured a new theme, but what each pair shared is that they featured premium materials. They were really high end, and each shoe was numbered. So some pairs were around 1,000 or so, while others were around 2,000 or so. And for the Air Jordan 6, I'm not sure if they're going to make this pair limited. That part I haven't heard. I kind of expect that they would, but I don't know if they're going to be individually numbered like the previous drops. But when I was doing some digging, I found something very interesting. So back in 2010, Jordan Brand put out an official press release, and I'm just going to read a section from it. So it reads, Jordan is proud to announce the introduction of the Ben 23 collection, Bin 23 is a remarkable collection of Air Jordans 1 through 23. When the time is right, select shoes from history's most revered line of footwear will appear in exceptional releases conceived for the true connoisseur. Now, in the initial press release, they basically said there's a collection of Bin 23s from 1 to 23. So during that time, some people believed that we would see Air Jordans 1 through 23 release, but that didn't happen. They kind of jumped around from different models, and 16 years later, Jordan Brand is going to restart the collection with the Air Jordan 6. Now, I don't know if any other colorways or any other models are expected to drop in 2026. I do think there is a possibility, but at this time, the Air Jordan 6 is confirmed to be released. Now, since it is a bin, you can expect better materials on this shoe, and what that typically means is a higher retail price. Unfortunately, I don't know the retail price as of yet. I should get info later on, but at the time of recording, they're expected to drop spring 2026, which means the release will take place between January and March. So for the sake of this video, I did want to include the Air Jordan 13 Chicago. Now, if you missed my last video, because I dropped it really late, I believe on Thursday or Friday, I can't remember the day, I announced that the Air Jordan 13 Chicago would be returning in spring 2026. Now, rumors went around initially that the Air Jordan 13 He Got Game would be releasing, but that isn't the case. I received confirmation that it's actually the Chicago pair. Now, the colorway and style code that was initially put out is the same for this shoe. It's just that the information was incorrect when it first went out. And no shade to the individual who put it out. I'm just trying to connect the dots here and just inform people, because he's a good guy. I actually talked to him. I just think he jumped the gun a little bit on some of this 2026 info. That's just my opinion. In my opinion, also, I feel like 2026 info is really early to be talking about, but since I was sent it and I was given the okay to now talk about the stuff, I decided why not. So yes, the Air Jordan 13 Chicago will be returning in spring 2026. The shoes will feature a white, black, and true red colorway. Now, for those who don't know, which I'm sure everybody does here, this is an OG colorway, first dropped in 1998. In 2005, Jordan Brand released a low-cut version of the shoe, which I feel is really dope. I wouldn't mind seeing those return eventually. And then 5 years later, in 2010, we would see a true retro return as far as being in mid-top form. Now, the last time we saw this shoe debut was in 2017. They've had several nicknames. Initially, they were just called White and Red, and then they were known as Cherry. And then with the 2017 release, the nickname Chicago got attached to them. So for this pair, spring 2026 is when they're expected to debut. More than likely, this pair will be available in full family sizing, although I don't have the confirmation on that just yet. And the retail price will be $210. This isn't really new information, but I did receive 100% confirmation that the Air Jordan 5 Wolf Grey will be returning in spring 2026. So when this information initially went out, I wasn't the one who shared it, but there was no style code or anything like that. But the other day I was provided that information. So for the most part, this is locked in. Of course, things could change and the shoes could get scrapped, but I don't see that happening. Now, the pair will feature a light graphite, white, and wolf gray colorway. Now, the images used is the 2011 pair. I did see the 2026, a sample of them, and in my opinion, they look really good. The shape, in my opinion, again, looks better than the 2011 release, which is a huge plus in my opinion because I feel like the shape is a lot better. I feel like Jordan Brand is doing a better job on the shape of the Air Jordan 5. Now, as I'm talking to you guys, I am looking at the sample pair, and I don't know if people are going to be upset about this or not, but the 23 that is embroidered on the lateral side will not have the OG style font, at least on the sample pair. Now, that could change, of course, but I don't know if people will be upset about that because the initial drop, which took place in 2011, featured this style of font, and this is pretty much the same font that is going to be used on the new pair, unless things change. But overall, the pair looks on point to this, just with the exception of the outsole and netting won't be aged. They'll have like a blue translucent hue to it. And this is another pair that should be available in full family sizing, although I don't have 100% confirmation on that. Now, spring 2026 is when this pair is expected to drop. And currently I don't know the retail price, but it should be $200, but it's possible that they could retail at $210. I was really surprised to hear that this pair would be returning in 2026, just because I felt that Jordan Brand kind of forgot about the colorway. But we have the Air Jordan 9 Flint Grey returning in spring 2026. This pair is also known as French Blue, and a lot of people have wanted this pair to return. I've seen it in the comment section, and when I seen people comment about it somewhat recently, I knew about the shoes returning, and I was like, man, I wish I could just say, be patient. But I couldn't say that because I promised I wouldn't say anything, and I was given the go-ahead. So today is that day. We're going to talk about this shoe, and what is shown is the original release, which took place in 2002. This is the first and only time that the Air Jordan 9 Flint Grey released. I really thought there was another time the shoes dropped. I looked it up, but nope, it's just in 2002. So 2002 actually brought us a lot of Air Jordan 9 colorways. As for mid/high pairs, we had the Cool Gray, which this was the first time that colorway dropped. The Olive pair returned in 2002. That is an OG colorway. And then we had the OG white, black, and red pair return. Some people call that shoe Space Jam. Now, of those three releases, the fourth pair would be the Air Jordan 9 Flint Grey, also known as French Blue. But there was two low-top pairs that also dropped, one known as Pearl Blue. I really hope they re-release that shoe. And then the other pair is known as White Chrome. I never was a huge fan of that shoe. It's mostly white with some chrome hits. Maybe some of you guys might like it, and who knows, we may eventually see that pair return. Now, I did not see a sample pair of this, but I was told this information. I do have the official colorway, the style code, all that good stuff, and the pair will feature a white, French Blue, and Flint Grey colorway. So the pair will resemble the 2002 release. They'll feature white leather up top, and then we'll have gray on the mudguard, which expands to the collar. It'll also cover most of the midsole with a glossy overlay, and it'll also be used on the pull tabs. Now, French Blue will be used on the eyelets, the top of the tongue, the globe, and the number 23 placed on the heels, and the Jumpman logo that's used on the outsole. Now, the outsole pretty much features all white, and white is also used on the lower part of the tongue. This is a shoe that I'm excited about returning because I didn't own the OG pair. I do remember when it originally released, but I never picked them up. This time, I'm definitely going to. So again, spring 2026 is when this pair will be released, which means that they're going to drop between January and March. Also, the retail price should be $210. So about a month or so ago, news broke that the Air Jordan 6 Infrared, also known as Black Infrared, would be returning in spring 2026. And this news spread like wildfire. It was crazy. It was talked about everywhere. Now, when I saw the news, I took a couple days before I talked about it, and I believe I waited because I heard something totally different. But at that time, I was asked not to say anything. So some of you may remember the video I put out. I basically said that I heard something different. It could have some changes to it, not like the OG. I pretty much alluded to us getting something different than the Infrared Air Jordan 6. Now, a lot of you read between the lines, and you already knew what we were getting. You guessed it. So this shouldn't come as any surprise, but at least we have confirmation. So this video for many will be used as confirmation. Some may not know this at all, but in spring 2026, the Air Jordan 6 Reverse Infrared will be released. Now, this is a special pair. Some might be upset about this, but I feel that a lot of older heads will really appreciate it, or people who know the history about the shoe, they'll be happy about this release. Now, oddly enough, Jordan Brand is not calling this a reimagined shoe. The actual name for them is Infrared Salesman Sample. That is what Jordan Brand is calling them. They're not attaching a reimagined name to it, but things could change later down the line. They could say, hey, this is part of our reimagined series. And if Jordan Brand does do that, I definitely will update you guys. Now, the initial nickname for the shoe when they first appeared online was Reverse Infrared. Now, this pair never released to the public, but in 1999, we would see this pair start to pop up online. They even made an appearance in the East Bay catalog. But it turns out that Jordan Brand would release the OG pair just like the 1991 release in the year 2000. So we didn't get this pair, but somehow people did get their hands on the shoes, and even today, you could find a pair on eBay. Now, I don't know how true this is, but rumor has it that when images started to pop up online back in the Nike Talk days, that everybody was upset. They wanted the OG pair to be released. Jordan Brand saw this and decided to scrap the model and instead bring out the OG infrared pair. Again, I don't know how true that is, but I will say that it seems that more pairs than just salesman samples were produced, because over time I've seen quite a few pairs popping around, unless people are just trading the same pair over and over. Now, in my opinion, this is dope. This is part of Jordan Brand's history, but there is a few differences on this shoe. So the sample version will actually have more red. The red fills in more of the midsole. It also fills in the Nike Air branding on the heels. But comparing to the OG pair, it'll feature the same locations of red, which includes the Jumpman on the tongue, lace lock, and the spoiler. Now, I was fortunate enough to see a sample of this shoe. I saw it quite some time ago, and that's kind of why I alluded to basically we're not getting the OG infrared, we're getting something different. And what I saw in the sample is pretty much identical to this. Now, what is interesting about this pair is that the colorway on them is black and light crimson, not black and infrared. Now, that could change, but that is the actual color description that I was provided from somebody at Jordan Brand. And I really wonder how people are going to react to this, because I know the OG infrared is a loved shoe. Michael Jordan wore them to win his first NBA championship, specifically this colorway. But then again, this pair is part of history and will finally be released. So I would like to know your guys' opinions. For me, I'm definitely happy with this release. I'm okay with them not dropping the OG infrared, just because I've owned quite a few of that model. Now, I get it. If you don't own the OG colorway or the OG pair, then yeah, you're going to want that shoe to drop. But again, spring 2026 is when they're expected to drop, which means a release will take place between January and March. And in my opinion, I kind of have a feeling that they're going to drop in February, probably during All-Star Weekend, but that isn't confirmed. And at the time of recording, I don't have a retail price. And that's going to do it for this video. Like always, greatly appreciate you guys for watching. If you have a second and haven't done so already, also appreciate a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe by hitting the button below. One more thing, if you haven't done so yet, make sure to turn on the notification bell so you can be alerted every time I drop a new video. Now, speaking of new videos, tomorrow I'm definitely going to drop a short video. Wednesday, I plan on doing another news video, and then Friday, I'm probably going to drop the Air Jordan and Nike April 2025 release dates video. So it's going to be a busy week. I wanted to just dedicate this video to the spring 2026 releases. I know there's still quite a bit of news going around, so I did want to cover that on Wednesday's video. But for this one, let me know what you liked or disliked down below. As well, if you have any questions, make sure to leave that down below. Again, thanks for watching. Stay tuned to SneakerFiles.com. And if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe.